Well, hello, everyone. Happy Monday evening, and thank you for joining us. We are so excited to continue with our Monday guest speaker series. This is actually the first one I've hosted in a while, so I'm excited to be back with you all. As a reminder, or if you haven't met me yet, my name is Shannon Sheehy. I manage our careers team here at CodeU, so I oversee our fantastic team of technical career coaches, as well as the employer specialists. So if you have any job-related questions, we're your go-to, so please feel free to reach out. Before we get started with our speaker, just a few announcements to share. So we do have some more exciting guest speakers planned out over the next several weeks. Those include next Monday, we're going to have Kelly Berkmeyer of ISOC. She has worked for an internet service provider from the dial-up days through now. So she's going to tell us about adapting and thriving in the changing tech world. On November 6th, we're going to have Joe Kratzit, who's out of Lexington, talk to us about the developer to software engineer pathway. And then on December 11th, we're going to have a little bit of a different talk with Dr. Ami Shah, who is a former student and mentor. She has a talk that she does called Emotional First Aid 101. So a lot of it's dealing with mental health, and specifically she has a great tie-in to how to deal with job rejection and how to not let yourself get too down when going through the job hunt process. So I think that'll be a really great talk for everybody. Our careers team is also, working on some more engaging events, so keep an eye out for those. In Slack, we shared a career day that's coming up with Atria on November 1st, so feel free to check that out. We're also planning some more hiring events. We send out a tech careers newsletter to anyone who has finished a full class, so keep an eye out for that as well. And then for modular folks, so if you started in your course in either May or August, and you're in a pathway, if you're attending this as part of your career readiness requirement, please just be sure to fill out the form in your Google Classroom to get credit for attending. I know you still have plenty of time to do that. I know several weeks or months really before it's due, but just a friendly reminder to get that turned in. A couple housekeeping items. So please keep yourself muted throughout the presentation as much as possible. We're going to have a lot of people on here. We already are over 20, which is excellent. So we just want to cut down on some of that background noise. Please feel free to use the chat for questions and comments. And then at the end, we should have plenty of time for Q&A. So we'll open it up for more chat questions as well as taking yourself off mute at that time. I'll keep an eye on the chat as we go along. If there's anything that seems like it kind of needs to be addressed by our speaker as we're going, I'll interrupt and ask him those questions. Otherwise, we'll save them for the end. So with that, tonight we are joined by Sonny Fishback, who is a former CodeU program participant turned mentor. And he is going to present on hosting static websites using AWS. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Sonny. And thanks again to everyone for being here.
Thanks, Shannon. Yeah, so quick introduction. I got to pull up my notes here. So for those who don't know me, I am a co-Louisville alumni and now a mentor. I am a AWS certified cloud practitioner with about 5 years of experience with cloud service providers like AWS, Microsoft Azure. Today we will be covering how to host static sites on AWS. Currently, I'm in Tampa, Florida, working for Ashley Furniture. So yeah, with no further ado, let's get into these slides. So quick vocabs to get started. What is a static site? So a static website is a website that's contents are static, that don't do any changing, and that are delivered to the user when they request it as they were deployed. So for example, if you're using like an HTML website, that's a static site. Even if you're using like a reactive framework, like Vue, Svelte, Angular, that is a static site. I mean, maybe not Svelte, because sometimes that's server-side rendered. But like Vue, for instance, the site is delivered to the user, and then on the request, the HTML and JavaScript is delivered to the user. And then once it makes its way to the client, to the device, then that's when there's some JavaScript and things that happen on the user's side. So it doesn't happen on the server side. It's not a server rendered website. That website, nothing changes. The next thing is, what is AWS? So AWS, Amazon Web Services, is a subsidiary of Amazon.com that offers on-demand cloud computing. So you get to pay as you go for services instead of traditional premise services where you would have to pay for a server. It may cost $10,000. You may need to pay someone $70, $120,000 to manage these servers for you. You may need multiple servers depending on how large of an application you have. But with AWS, you can spin up a server and a bunch of different cloud, a database and things instantly almost, or within minutes sometimes. And a lot of times it's managed by AWS. There's other cloud service providers like Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud Platform, and then there's other ones that are runners up. Those are the big three, but then you have some like Akamai, other ones that I'm not going to bring up. So we're going to host our website on AWS 3. But before I speak about AWS S3, let's talk about what AWS S3 is. So it's a cloud service that's provided by AWS, and it's simple storage service is the name. AWS 3S's AWS S3. It's a highly durable object storage service that excels in storing files. You can have up to 5 terabytes of data in each one of your S3 buckets. That's not a hard limit. If you need, for some reason, if you need to store more than 5 terabytes of data, you can request it through AWS. They should be able to let you, have more data. Common use cases for AWS 3 you'll see in the real world, other than hosting static sites, is for storing backup data files, storing server log files, and things like that. A similar service is Azure Blob. That's a Azure service. We're going to be using CloudFront in the future. Some of you may not want to do the full thing. We're going to do the full thing, and you won't use CloudFront. But CloudFront is a CDN. So the CDN is not limited to the cloud service providers, Azure, Google Cloud Platform, or anything like that. There's cloud service providers like Akamai. I think Cloudflare has one, and a content delivery network, CDN, is essentially, here's an example. So everyone here is probably close to Kentucky. If you had users, if you wanted to start a startup or your website or what have you, you want the server to be as close to your end users as possible, right? It still takes time for those requests to go over the internet, hit the server where your application is running, and then get that response back to the user. So if your user is in Japan, it'll take longer for them to make a request and get a response to Kentucky than if they were in Kentucky or in Ohio. So what a CDN does is it caches versions of your application across a content network. So AWS, they have regions and edge locations, and AWS will cache your application across this network. So how does it work? The user makes a request. Let's say your website is hosted in the servers and computers that AWS has in Ohio, which would be the closest region to Kentucky, closest option. And let's say you have a user that's making a request in Russia or Japan. The first user that makes the request, the first request would have to go all the way to the origin where the actual server is. But other requests, when they make a request, they would take a shortcut. They would be making requests to the edge location, the closest edge location, where AWS or whatever CDN you use will have a stashed version of the last request. Now, this adds complexity to your application. Now, when you update your files, you may need to update your cache and validate your cache, clear your cache, things like that. CDNs are really good for like CloudFront CloudFront, for example, is really good at DDoS protection. So direct denial of service. I think that's it. So that's a attack where someone constantly pings your website to prevent your resources from being accessible to other people and holding your cloud resources or on-prem resources hostage. So CloudFront is really good for a simple way to protect your application from that. There's a bunch of other things. Make sure I'm not missing anything on this slide. No, I'm not. So cool. Prerequisites. There were some other prerequisites on here, but I deleted them. So the two you need are an active AWS account, and I have links here, right? And I have links here, and I didn't. One second, let me, because I'm supposed to share this out. Hopefully, you guys can access that link. Let's get back to it. Well, I'll actually, instead of doing that, because you may not be able to access the link, I'll just copy this. That is the URL to register for AWS. Yeah, so everyone go ahead and pop that open if you want to follow along. And I'll wait a second. Cool, so let's get started. If you don't have AWS pulled up by now, that's fine. I'm also going to share a GitHub repository with all of these steps, so you're not going to miss out on anything if you can't get it done as you follow along. So the first thing we're going to do is going to create an AWS account. We're going to register, and then once we register, we're going to create a user. If anyone has AWS pulled up and would like to share their screen and I can walk them through it, I can do that, or I will do it myself. No volunteers. Cool. Really fine. So we're going to do, it's going to go first. Going to go.
Hey, Sonny, you can have mine in just a second if you want.
Okay. Who's that speaking, Don?
Yep.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
let me get it verified real quick, and then we can run through this.
Yeah, so there's going to be a step where they ask you for your card information. Right after that, share your screen. I don't want to miss anything else other than that, other than your card information. Don't want you to have to share that out.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, so for anyone who has not set up an AWS account, it's pretty much like any like Netflix subscription or anything. Just, you know, you got to enter your card information. So AWS provides you a year of free tier access. So you're not really going to get billed for much. Some things do cost money. There's some things that are really expensive that you have to pay for. And not really expensive as in costs hundreds of dollars, but it's too expensive for AWS to give it to you for free. But a lot of things you get free for the first 12 months of your account. And then a lot of other things are free just by default. Like there's serverless functions. I like serverless functions and serverless event-driven applications. So per each million invocations, it's only $1. But for everything under $1 million is free. So if you have a startup or something and you're not getting a lot of traction, you probably won't incur a lot of costs. I worked for a startup. We had a team of, I don't know, 10 developers, and our costs were probably about $3 or $4 a month for development and testing. There were situations though where you could rake up a very high bill. One time we implemented some changes into our infrastructure and introduced an infinite loop, and it was a $15,000 bill. So it can get expensive. The first thing you want to do is set up billing and things like that. And once Don is ready, I'll make sure I go through all of that. We're not going to set up billing, but I'll show you where to set up billing. You just get alerts. Does anyone have any questions so far?
I think we're good on questions in the chat. Just have some pleas for Don to share his card info so we can all order pizza.
Someone asked for request me. Fix this. Copy link restricted. Anyone with a link can see this. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. Should have been more prepared. No problem, Paul. I'm gonna turn on my ceiling fan and burn it up.
It's that Florida weather for you.
Oh yeah. Not used to it.
We have a nice 50 degrees up here in Kentucky today.
Pretty cool here. Oh, awesome. Thanks, Don. Cool. So first setup, put his card information in, probably build like 20 cents just to verify that the card works. If you do rack up some crazy bill, that there is a real card. But other than that, they charge you 20 cents. They give it back to you. It's just like a test. Choosing the basic account tier developer account is like $29 a month, and it's for like if you're a developer, you maybe you're a freelance developer. I use this, and sometimes there's problems that you don't know the answer to. You need someone to respond to you in a couple hours, like. So that's good for developer. And then business is if you have like applications, people paying for that, you need responses in less than an hour, then that's when you would pay for that. Go ahead and complete the sign up, Don, with the basic support. Awesome. Now go ahead and go to the AWS Management Console. Cool. And you're going to go ahead and sign up as the root user. Your root user is allowed to do anything from billing to literally everything in your account the root user has access to. So you usually want to set up MFA for your root user to protect it. And you don't want to use your root user for anything other than like administrative things, like high level administrative things. So cool. The first thing we're going to do, and we're in the AWS console. Can you click next? Done. Cool. Click. Can you just click the after you get through all those, click the up at the top left services. Click services. Yeah, cool. So it's a bunch of different. Can you click all services? I just want to show everyone. It's all the way at the top. All services. Cool. And you can scroll down. It has there's thousands of services. AWS jokes. They say you guys complain that we have a lot of services, but remember, it's your fault. They say that because people request different services and they make them. A lot of other like Google Cloud platforms, very simple. They don't have a lot of services, very straightforward, kind of easier to learn. I prefer AWS. Cool. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go to IAM Identity Center. So in the search bar, look for IAM. There it is. It's right there. Perfect timing. Yeah, you can just look it up too. IAM Identity Center. There it goes. Cool. So it says Manage Workforce User Access. So go ahead and enable that. And we're going to create an administrative user. And once I get to sharing my screen again, I'll show you how I have my organization set up. Create an organization, create an AWS organization. Cool. And then enable. Cool. So next thing we want to do is we want to go to users on the left. And we're going to be creating it's going to be like a lower level than your root account. So it's going to have administrative access, but it's not going to be your root account, but this is going to be your management account. So go ahead and click add user. And I just made mine my first and last name. But you can make it whatever you want. Cool. Yeah, and then I do generate one-time password. I just always have issues with the send email. Go ahead and put your email address and things in there like that. Awesome. And then you can just scroll like all the contact methods and all that. You can skip past that. Just go to next. Cool. We're not gonna create a group. So a group is like you want to provide people access. We're not gonna create a group though, Don. A group is when let's say you want to give someone a bunch of permissions, then you want to add someone else. You want to give them a bunch of permissions, and they're the same. You can just create a group and then assign people to that group. Instead of giving them the same permissions one by one. Go ahead and click next. Cool. So it's just reviewing your user. I think you just scroll down and click finish or create, add user. Yes. Cool. So you want to copy all that stuff. Just have it somewhere. Take note of it somewhere. And once you have it noted, go ahead and close out, but not before, because we won't be able to see it again. You can always reset your password as long as you don't forget your root account. Then you're good. Cool. So once you have that notated somewhere, you go ahead and close out. You should be able to just hit that copy button. It should copy everything. And you can show us the password if you want to show it so you can copy it. It's a one-time password. So as soon as you log in, they're going to make you reset it.
Oh, it just didn't, this one for some reason didn't format it very well.
Okay.
But yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So let's go ahead and go to your user, click on it. And then scroll down. Active sessions. Scroll down some more for me. Address. Okay. Go to create and assign user permissions. Didn't leave the steps good enough. Go to AWS accounts in the left hand. Management account, permission sets. Go to users again. What's going on here? We're trying to set permissions. We need to give you administrative access. Can you, 1 second. I'm gonna go to mine really quick. Give me 30 seconds. I am Identity Center. I am Identity Center. AWS accounts. Permission sets, administrator access, users. Click edit. Okay, I'm gonna circle back. I'm gonna start sharing my screen. We only have 35 minutes. I want to make sure we finish everything, and then I'll circle back, make sure you get this account set up. Thank you, Don. Cool. So my screen is still visible. Cool. Awesome. So now this is what Don's account is trying to get it to look like. So I have my
Hey,
own
Sonny.
account here.
Right click and hit resume presenting. It'll pop up in the front again.
Oh, resume presenting. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Cool. So essentially, I wanted him to create a user. This is that user. And then I also have other accounts here. So this is how you organize your applications, keep them separate, and secure applications. So we're going to go into my sandbox. You notice I have my production website here, my portfolio website. Then I have my sandbox. This is where I tinker around with things. See some cost. Everything's pretty low. I purchased a domain name, so that was $5, and that was most of it. Then everything else is just in the fence. Cool. So now I have this repo. We're going to go through step by step how to set up a website. So first thing I'm going to do is I already have it. I'm going to share this. You can copy this. And you can fork this, so CD development, class, host. Cool. Cool. Command Shift V. Make sure your README present it all pretty and such. So everyone can see my screen. Make sure that it's going to clear and then sandbox. Cool. All right. So this is the architecture diagram. It's like you can't really see it as much as I would want you to see it. So let's show it on the repository. Nope, you can't see it there good either. Yeah. Let me try to zoom in here. Is that gonna no? Okay. Hopefully everyone can see it decently. So we have AWS S3 here. We have CloudFront in the middle. Route 53, there's our domain name service. And then we have our user making the request over the internet to go through all of our AWS resources. The first setup is not going to be with a domain name. It's just going to be an S3 bucket, and that's it. So you don't have to pay for anything except the charge that you may incur from putting data into these S3 buckets. You have to pay for storage. It's in the cents, and usually for the first year, you won't even notice any costs. Won't pay anything. So this we're going to do first. Eventually, we're going to set up the whole domain name setup. But for this part, we're going to set up the AWS S3 bucket. So fork and clone the repository if you're following along and you have an AWS account. The next thing we're going to do is going to create an IAM user. So this is how you manage access with your AWS account. So admin, amplified test. These are different users. I'm going to call this one pipeline. I'm going to choose not to provide access to the AWS console. So you'll only be able to access AWS resources through CLI. I'm going to attach policies directly, and I'm going to give administrator access just because I don't want to think about all of the different permissions I want to give. Best practice is to give limited, least privilege access. So literally the least possible access. So it will probably be like access to S3, access to CloudFront, things like that. But I'm going to do admin access just to speed things along. So I'm going to create this user. I'm going to go to this user, and then I'm going to generate some security credentials. So they move things all the time. Create access key. This was at the bottom recently. They move things all the time. So anyways, I'm going to create these access keys. I'm not going to create a tag. And here goes my access keys. I'm going to delete all of this at the end of this. So I'm gonna share it. I don't mind because I'm gonna delete all of these resources. So cool. So usually you would download these to a CSV just in case you forget them. But I already have them notated. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my repository secrets. And this will all come into play later. So I'm going to add these GitHub secrets. So the first one I need to create is AWS Access ID. That's the name of that one. Then that's going to be the access ID I created. And then I need to create another secret, and this is going to be secret access key. I'm going to go ahead and paste that one in. Cool. So I have those repository access, secrets. These are secrets and variables for GitHub Actions, which will be what we use for our CI/CD pipeline. So from there, it says create a folder. Make a GitHub folder. So now inside of the GitHub folder, I need to make a directory called workflows. And this will hold all of our GitHub actions, aka workflows. And we're going to make one called deploy.yaml. So now I can go here, deploy.yaml, and I'm going to copy this one, this entire file, example A, into this deploy script. Git commit created deploy action. Oh, cool. There's a example B here. It has a few extra steps: npm install, setup node, and that's for if you're using reactive framework. I won't be doing that today unless time permits it. Okay, so the next thing I want to create front end folder in my root directory. And inside of this front end folder, I need a file. It has to be called index.html. And that's going to be the entry point for our application. And I'm just going to say static site demo. And then I'm going to have a H1 in here. Hello world. Cool. And then let's go ahead and we're not going to push that up yet. Not going to push that up yet. In our GitHub script, any on means how it's triggered. Anything in the front end folder that's pushed up or added in a pull request will trigger this. I will talk more to GitHub Actions as time permits it. But for now, let's get back to the regularly scheduled program. So we're going to create an S3 bucket. So here, I have my user created. See, it hasn't been used, never used, created today. That's good. S3, using the search bar to navigate to AWS 3. So my website is, I have a domain purchased. I can call this whatever I want, but I'm going to call it the same as my domain. So I created a domain for my Sandbox account called sandbox.link. I'm going to set it to US East 1, but if you were in Kentucky, you'll want to do US East 2. You can still do US East 1, but US East 2 is technically the closest. So ACLs have that. It's the default. We're going to keep that there, and then block all public access. A lot of times, AWS S3 is not used for websites, but we're going to use it for websites. We want public access, so we're going to uncheck that block all public access option. Acknowledge that the settings might result in the bucket in the objects within becoming public. Yes, that's awesome. That's what we want. And then cool, let's look in advanced settings, make sure we're not missing anything, create the bucket. Cool, so I just created a AWS S3 bucket. And now I'm gonna go into this bucket and I'm gonna upload. So I'm gonna click upload, I'm probably moving fast. Click upload here, and I'm gonna add files. I'm gonna add files. You could add a folder if you had a folder like a built folder for your React or Vue application. Cool. So I have this index.html folder. I'm going to upload that. So it's uploaded in a few seconds. Awesome. So now we see, if we go to our bucket objects, we see index.html. Cool. So now let's go to properties. And we want to enable static website hosting. So I'm going to click enable host a static website. And then here I'm going to do index.html. That's the entry point of the application. The error document, you could do error HTML, index.html, but it's optional. And that's pretty much all you need to host a website on AWS. So let's go. Click here and it says forbidden 403 code access denied. Access denied. So the reason behind that is because we need to specify the access, who's able to access this bucket. So it's called a bucket policy, and it has no policy. So let's go ahead and update that policy. So I already have that policy created here. So if you go into the source, the bucket policy, copy that over. Paste that in, and then you see here, you will need to change this ARN bucket name. They provide you the bucket Amazon resource name is what that is, ARN. I'm going to paste it in there, sandbox.link, and I'm going to save the changes. And now we go back. Cool, we see hello world. So we have a website, it's hosted. That's it. Thank you for my TED Talk. But we want to do some more stuff here. So if you don't want a domain name, you just want to host your proof of concept, make it accessible to other people. This is hosting your website. It's hosted. Now you see this S3 console, Amazon. You'll probably see these links in some places. Some websites use just the AWS S3 provided URL. Now I have a domain name purchased already. So I'm going to go ahead and use that domain name and set up my website for HTTPS connection. So if you go to like sonnyfishback.com, you see this lock here saying that the connection is secure. You want that on your website. You want to be able to provide HTTPS connection and verify that you are a safe website. That's how you do that on AWS. So the first thing we need to do is go to Certificate Manager. And we need to request, I'm gonna delete this one. I'm not gonna delete it just in case there's an issue with me requesting one. But let's request another one. So request certificate, the fully qualified domain name is sandbox.link. I'm gonna add another name to the certificate. So www. Just in case someone uses that still. I'm gonna do asterisk as well. So this means that anything, any subdomain, DNS validation. So you could do email validation. This is what you would use if you had some, really pretty much if you wanted to use email, you could use email validation, but DNS validation, it works great with AWS. I'll show you why in a second, but you could probably also do that with GoDaddy. But you can always fall back to email validation. We're going to do DNS validation. So that's validating by adding those records to your domain name configuration. So let's go in here. Let's go to view certificate. It's pending validation. But since we did domain DNS, validate through DNS, we can create records through Route 53. That's where our domain name is purchased. So instead of GoDaddy or whatever else DNS provider you can have, like Cloudflare, we're using Route 53. So I'm going to create these records, and then they're going to go in Route 53. So let's go in Route 53, and let's look at these records get created. So I have one domain name. You see sandbox.link. I bought that 10/7, whenever that was, a few days ago. And then I have this hosted zone. I'm not going to get into what a hosted zone is, but for each domain name, you have a hosted zone. And you can see these are the records that were created. So now if we go duplicate this slide and go to certificate manager, it says issued. Awesome. So that's validated. Just takes a few seconds. And now we're going to set up our CDN, our content delivery network. So that service is called CloudFront. And a lot of different services. AWS has Cloudflare, CloudTrail, Cloud. And we're going to create a distribution. And this will be what has the distribution of your files across the content delivery network or what have you. So we're going to do this, and it's going to ask us to use the website endpoint instead. Static website hosting is enabled, so use the website endpoint. This is going to change just a little bit. So click that, and then it's the actual website URL that we're using here. So we have that set. HTTP only is the protocol for some reason. Origin path, we don't need to change that. Allow get and head, we don't need to do like put pat post delete. We're only getting our website files. And skip through all of these defaults. Use all edge locations. We're not going to do that. We're not going to put our content all over the globe. Let's just do North America and Europe to save us some money. And then for CNAMEs, we're going to do the same thing we did for our SSL certificate. We're going to do the same exact combination of domain names. Sandbox.link, sandbox, cool, awesome. So now we need to choose a certificate. I don't know which one I created last, but they're both fine. Go back up. We have that configured, standard logging, and there's supposed to be an option to forward HTTP to HTTPS. Choose enable security protections. I think that's what we need to do. Well, I don't see that. Create distribution. I'm gonna look through. I really want to forward HTTP to HTTPS. Okay, here, redirect HTTP to HTTPS. So we want to make sure that we're always using a secure connection. So cool, let's create that distribution. And then we're just gonna wait for that to go from deploying to show us a timestamp of when it was last modified. This is one of those resources that takes a while to get spun up. So this will probably take a minute, 2 minutes. And that time, I'm gonna check the questions.
I have a weird question, Sonny. It may be a dumb question.
There's no dumb questions.
See, that's what I wanted you to say. Thank you. What's the difference in doing this, setting up a static website in this way versus using AWS Amplify? I saw that was an option when I set up my account. So is there a difference in the two, or it looks like Amplify takes me through some sort of step-by-step methodology? So yeah, that's a good question. So with
a lot of cloud service providers, they have their fundamental services. So the fundamental parts of the cloud are compute, storage, compute and data storage, um, and pretty much another one maybe is identity and security in the cloud. Then you have services that are built on top of these services. So Amplify is a managed service that does it spins up like the database for you if you want to have a database. So it's just a managed service that helps you get to market quicker. And it's really good for like mobile applications, and it's comparable to Google's Firebase and Firestore and things like that. So the difference is with this, you're manually setting up your infrastructure, and then with Amplify, it's quicker, it's easier to learn, and it's built on top of these services. So that's pretty much it. It's just a managed service that makes it easier. But I prefer AWS S3. It doesn't there's not extra resources on top, so you'll pay less. This is the fundamental infrastructure, and this translates across. This setup translates across cloud service providers. So Azure Blob, like I said, is for Azure, and then let me see here. Was this? It's still deploying, and then I forget the one for Google. Yeah, but yeah, Paul Priest, like you said, it's about as cheap as it gets, 10 times cheaper than Amplify. Yeah, so Amplify is a managed service, so then it's doing other things for you. But you know, I always go with AWS S3 with CloudFront. It's really simple. Once you understand and learn it, it's really easy to understand. You can transfer it across different cloud service providers. And it's really sturdy too. Really sturdy. You have CloudFront in front, some type of CDN in front. I like it. A lot of production static websites use this setup. Amplify, you know, I don't have any experience. I haven't seen anyone use that like in like real world scenarios, but I'm certain that it is. I just haven't ran into it. But you know, I'm just 5 years into the game, so I don't know, you know, that much. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank y'all. So Amplify will basically charge me for that managed service then. Is that what I'm hearing? Whereas
yeah, for sure.
S3, then that's kind of like a way to do the same thing, but it's at the least cost.
Yeah, but sometimes and like with software, it always depends. So maybe Amplify is, you know, the best service option for you if if you're not familiar with setting up like if you're like a mobile application or a web app, you want to manage a database and you want to manage your users as well, like authentication. Amplify has all of that in one. So then maybe you want to also throw in hosting your website as well. Awesome. CDN, it's set up. So let's click this domain name, this distribution domain name. Let's go here. Let's click on this. Command V. Hello world. Cool. So now we can see this. We can see this. And now the last part, because this isn't human readable. You can't say like go to my website at D3604440C. You know, like nobody's gonna come to your website and spend some money if they gotta type in all that. So we need to use our human readable domain name. So Route 53 is scalable DNS domain name registration. So just like GoDaddy and Cloudflare, I have one hosted zone here. Sandbox.link. I'm going to go here into these records. And I'm going to create a record. And did I not? Okay, I have the instructions. I was like, did I miss some instructions? Create a record. So I'm not going to add a subdomain. So if I had a front end website, be accessible, sandbox.link, but maybe I had an API. This one I use a subdomain, like api.sandbox.link. But I'm not going to do that now. So I'm going to create alias. And then I'm going to alias to CloudFront distribution. It makes it really easy to do it. And then I'm going to click this CloudFront distribution. It shows you all your CloudFront distributions. Create records. And then I'm going to view status. This takes a while to propagate, not very long. Not very long. But I'm not going to keep spamming it because that doesn't make it go faster. And once this is propagated, then we'll be able to access the website through sandbox.link. So it says in sync, awesome, in sync. So now let's go. Hello world, awesome. And we have that cute lock there. Feel safe. Hey, you can spend money on this website. We're not gonna hack you. And that's pretty much it. Now, this isn't how I do things. Because now what happens if like someone hacks into this AWS account and now they have all my resources hostage? I learned how to do this one time when I had this mentor show me, but I forgot how to do it. So I can't spin it up again. So that's the issue. So let's tear down all these. And if you're experimenting, this is a habit to have. Tear down all your resources if you don't want to pay more than what you need to pay. So I'm going to go into this hosted zone. Hopefully I can tear down all these resources before this meeting is over, because I really want to show you all something else. It's very cool. So don't delete your NS server name, your name server name, and the SOA name, because then you're going to have to reach out to get some help if you don't understand DNS. I don't understand DNS, so delete those records. Cool. Now the next thing we're going to do is our CloudFront distribution. Let's delete that. I'm going to go backwards in order how I created everything, because some things are dependent on each other, can't be deleted before the other one. So let's go here. You have to disable it first, which takes a while. So we're going to wait on that to deploy those changes. Seven minutes. Come on. While it's deploying, I'm going to show you. So this CloudFormation. So AWS. So infrastructure is code. Option Z. Infrastructure as code is there are services or technologies like ARM for Azure, CloudFormation for AWS, and then you have Terraform, which is like the cloud service provider agnostic service that allows you to write to like version control your resources. So what we did is we created a web app. We created a bucket policy. That was that JSON document. We pasted in. We created a CloudFront distribution. This is this distribution, still deploying. We created an SSL certificate. And instead of having to go through these steps manually, we can just push a few buttons. We can deploy these resources and just wait with our feet kicked up, and watch them deploy. And if someone hacks into this AWS account, or for some reason, or maybe we have some web application that we need to deploy to multiple different environments, we can use infrastructure as code to achieve that. So it's an awesome tool that I use. I think it's a DevOps thing. It's not really development, but if you get good at like, and I recommend you learning Terraform. I learned CloudFormation first, but I recommend learning Terraform first. It's more dangerous. This is still deploying. Still deploying. Terraform incoming. Yeah, I'm learning. I'm learning Terraform as we speak. My organization is pushing for devs to know Terraform, and my organization refuses to use AWS. It's a competitor, so all my certs and all that, it's a waste right now. So it's that. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, so learn Terraform. It's easy to learn. You know, it's a learning curve, so it's not like the easiest thing in the world to learn. But definitely something that is valuable to know and will boost your resume. If you have Terraform on there, you know, some projects to Terraform. Yeah, and like Paul said, the documentation is very good. Oh my goodness, this is taking forever. It's taking forever. Oh my goodness. Okay, cool, disabled. Now we can delete it. It says disabled, so now we can delete it. Awesome, that's deleted. And now let's go in here to S3. Let's go ahead to S3. And let's delete this S3 bucket. You can't delete the bucket without deleting the resources inside of it. So let's delete that. And then it makes you type in permanently delete. I never type it in. I just copy it and paste it. Cool, so that's deleted. And then let's go to buckets and let's delete that bucket. Cool. So now the next thing we're going to do is instead of taking that time, it took us about 35 minutes around that time to implement all that infrastructure. Instead of doing that, what we're going to do is we're going to take this command, this AWS CLI, and I am going to, so AWS CloudFormation create stack. I specified my region, the stack name, and the file, and then the profile, which is Sandbox, the profile you've seen me create or seen me use. Uh-oh, there's an issue here. Profile, template body, error passing to, unable to find, okay. Oh, because I changed the file name after I documented that. So cool. Cool. So now that's a response. It's saying, hey, that's the stack ID. And now let's go in here. It's another resource. Service, AWS service called CloudFormation. Formation. Can't spell today. So now we see front end, create in progress. And we can see in the events, it's saying, oh no, web app deployment. Oh, made a mistake. Delete this stack. I made a mistake. It's okay. It's not like we only have 1 minute left. So you gotta change this. Change that to sandbox.link and then go into Route 53. We have to change this. Have to paste in the hosted zone ID here. So if you're using this, you want to change the domain name. And you want to go in here to your hosted ID name, paste that inside here. And I want to make sure, just look through this, make sure everything is right. Everything is everything. Cool. So now if I do that, and I'm just going to change the stack name from front end, just in case that stack still exists. I'm going to call it front end 2. Cool. Now we're creating that stack. And it's just going to automate that process. It's going to create all those resources. My website will be ready to be accessed. That's going to take a minute or two. And then I didn't have time to show you guys, unfortunately. I want to show you the GitHub action as well. So when you're making changes to your website and you push them up, there's an automatic script here to deploy that front end, those files to the S3 bucket. So if anyone wants to stay on, I'm going to leave the floor open for questions, but if anyone wants to stay on until this is created in the next 2 or 3 minutes and watch that CI/CD pipeline, I'll definitely show that. Be happy to show that.
Yeah, Sonny, feel free to wrap things up. And participants, if you guys need to drop off for whatever reason, that's totally fine. But if anybody does have questions, feel free to go ahead and unmute yourself to ask, or if you want to throw them in the chat, I'm happy to read those out as well.
Yeah, I'm paying attention to the chat. So any question you guys have, you all have, feel free to ask.
Hey, it's Tanya again. So literally this is something you would have to do if you need to tear down what you built for whatever reason, like if someone hacks your account, or if you just need to reverse this for some reason to, fix an error or something like that. It's literally you're going like step by step backwards. Is that right?
Yeah, maybe you don't have to go step by step backwards exactly, but you would have to, if you wanted to tear, like if you didn't want to pay for that anymore, you would have to, remember all of the resources and delete them one by one. But with CloudFormation or infrastructure as code, you can just push a button, usually run a script to tear down your resources, deploy your resources. And let's say I created a new AWS account. Let's say I want to take advantage of the free tier again, create another AWS account. Then I could just tear down my resources, clicking this delete button, and then redeploy my resources in another account.
Cool.
It's taking absolutely forever. Yeah, it's much quicker than what the time we put in manually creating the resources, but it does still take a little while. It's that CloudFront distribution. I bet. Go to events. Oh, it may be okay, let's do that. It may be the issue. That certificate manager says create in progress. So yeah, pending validation, that's what it is. So let's go in here and let's speed that along, create the records, speed that along. So now, once this is created, I think we'll be good. Information. Resources, events. Yeah, it's waiting on that SSL certificate. Needs to validate this one. And it's weird because this one, I guess it's not the same. Go to Route 53. See what's going on there. Hosted zone. So we deleted those records, but we have them here. We can see them again. 6 name. Oh, it's taking forever. Oh, issued. Cool. It's issued now. So then we can go to CloudFormation. CloudFormation, and still gonna wait because now we're waiting on that CloudFront distribution to be deployed. And once that is deployed, we'll be ready to go back to the site. It won't be won't have any files in it because we deleted those files. We'll have to redeploy it, but I'm going to deploy that using this GitHub action by making a small change. And Don, I'll make sure I send you those steps to set up your admin account. You just have to apply administrator access permissions to that account, and then you'll be good to go. Just didn't document those steps.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Checking CloudFront to see what's going on there. Cool, so it's deploying. And then once this is deployed, it'll definitely be done. Hopefully it is just a few more seconds, 30, 40 seconds or so. Cool, that's deployed. So if we check in the stacks, should be create complete. Takes a while to get updated sometimes. Still saying the distribution is being created, but it's not. Cool. So CloudFront distribution create complete. So now cool, create complete. So now if we go to sandbox.link, let's just do the CloudFront distribution for now. Let's go to the distribution link. It may take a second for that to propagate across. So it says do not have any style information associated with it. So it doesn't have that indexed HTML file that we created. So let's go in here. Let's stage this. Git commit, update, front end, push, git push origin main. Cool. So that's going to the workflows. Refresh the page. Cool. So we triggered that. Hopefully this doesn't fail. Hopefully this doesn't fail. But we triggered that GitHub action. So now it's going to go through those steps. Oh, it failed. Oh, that's fine because there's no files to remove from the S3 bucket. So that's why that failed. Hopefully, but oh, it didn't fail safely. So let's rerun. Oh, okay. Didn't think about that. That's cool. That's cool. So let's go in here. Let's go in there. Upload a file. Add that file in there. Cool. So now there's a file. And now let's change that front end again to hello world. Hello world again. Oh. Hello world again. Then up. Stage changes, git commit. Okay, and if this fails, then I failed. Didn't fail. Oh. Okay, yeah, so there's an issue with the bucket. Oh, I think I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. But something going on with this bucket here. S3, remove files, bucket name, and that is the problem. That is the problem. Settings, we didn't add the bucket name. So we're using a variable that doesn't exist. Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, I was like, because it's never failed. It's never failed because there weren't any files. I've used this, like I just copied this from a project that was like had real users on it. So I was like, it doesn't make sense. Cool. So now if we redeploy that, anyone wants to stay on, see what it looks like. It says hello world. And now if we redeploy this action, just redeploy it, rerun jobs, rerun all jobs. And this should take just 3 seconds. And then this is gonna work. This is gonna work. Rookie mistake. How did I mix that? Okay, there we go. That's another problem. The file path is wrong. I'm gonna go ahead and give up though. So instead of front end, I have source here. It has to sync the files with the front end. So yeah, gonna wrap it up there though. But you see the GitHub action is triggering on change, so that's a good thing. But yeah, I don't want to hold you guys any longer. Is there any questions before I take off?
Thanks for being
Take that
here
as a no.
tonight. I'm sorry,
No
Sonny, I think I cut you off.
No problem. Yeah, well, I shared this repository. I'm gonna look through it. I think I forgot a step with the. Oh, it's here. S3 bucket name. I just was freestyling. Cool. And then hopefully I added. Yeah, so probably like a step or two that I need to add in here. So yeah, share this. I'm gonna share this out, and anyone that wants to take this challenge on, you're welcome to. Just fork the repository, and make as many changes as you want. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sonny, and thank you all for being here. As a reminder, if you're here as part of your class requirement, please remember to fill out the form in your Google Classroom.